Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Leslie presents. And now your host, Paul Leslie.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome this man, the one and only Bernie Worrell. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
My first question, who is Bernie Worrell? How do you define yourself?
I'm the bashful type, whether you believe that or not, but I don't talk about myself a lot, or hardly at all. Everybody else talks. I choose to be humble, and my talent and gifts come from God. I'm a channel, and was sent to make people happy, and heal, and teach by playing. I'm not much of a spokesman when it comes to, I teach by example, you know.
Mm-hmm. But you learned to play music at a young age. Can you remember the first time you started playing?
I don't remember the very first time, but I can remember after I can remember my mother teaching me a scale, which I used to go to the piano every day at 3.5 years old and play perfectly. That's how she thought something was there. And by the time I was 4, she had found a teacher, and I had my first concert at 4 years old. And I remember rehearsing, or playing that scale a couple of times, but the most I remember is taking lessons with my new teacher, who became my godmother also. So I guess I remember most of it from 4 years old.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting to hear about you performing with the Washington Symphony Orchestra at 10.
Yes.
Were you scared?
Well, it was part of the Plainfield Symphony, which is where my new teacher had a music school, an academy, and part of the Washington Symphony. So it was like half and half. She had contacts through her conductor professor that taught at her school. He had contacts with Washington, and he conducted.
I wanted to ask you about meeting George Clinton. What was your first impression of him when you met him?
Well, when I met him, he's a street person. He was a barber. You know, the original parliaments were all barbers, and he just easygoing, singing doo-wop. And I used to sneak out my mother's house to go get my hair processed, because I was brought up kind of strict, you know. I couldn't hang with those hoodlums, as my mother called them. And so I used to go down to the barber shop and just get out to be able to hang with, you know, meet some friends. And it was amiable, and they had heard that this guy moved to town that was some kind of genius or something. And that's how we met. And at that time, he said one day when he could afford me, he'd get in touch, which he did. Years later, I was on the road with Maxine Brown, a famous R&B vocalist. I was in Bermuda, and George Clinton contacted management. My wife, who's my manager now, and asked to have a meeting. She met with him and called me in Bermuda and said, George Clinton says he's ready and he wants to know if you move to Detroit, because he had moved everybody from Jersey to Detroit at that time. I thought about it, and we made the move. And the rest is history.
You wrote a lot of songs with Bootsy Collins and George Clinton. What are your memories of writing with them? What was it like?
It was fun all the time, and challenging to come up with the changes and put the pieces together. George did melody and lyrics, and I would do the arrangement. Bootsy would arrange also. George and I were the main writers at first until Bootsy joined us, and the three of us. It was great I really loved it when Bootsy came into the fold, because his rhythms and his personality, and he helped take the load off of the craziness over there, because Bootsy came from the camp of no nonsense business, with Mr. Brown, and the discipline made my job easier as being band leader and disciplinarian, and on the whole, it's a great combination. The chemistry was natural. It was just stuff just flowed out of us.
Yeah. You also played with Paul Shaffer on the CBS Orchestra when they went from NBC to CBS. How did you meet Paul Shaffer?
I met Paul Paul's also from Canada. George Clinton and myself and maybe one other person had moved to Toronto, and we met Paul there, and he was always a P-Funk fan from way back in the day. And every time P-Funk would come to New York, Paul would be there on stage, and we always invite him up on stage to play, sit in. And so one day he called after I left P-Funk for a minute and said, would I be interested in playing in the orchestra? At the same time, I was doing weekend tours with Bootsy. So I thought about it, I did it, and that was very interesting, and the precision that you have to be on point at all times, because there might be a cue that comes in where you play a piece of music all of a sudden, and it made me really appreciate Paul and the job he has to do, cue the band, cue off of David, and anyway, it got to be kind of hectic because I would tape the show during the week and then fly out Friday after taping the show to meet Bootsy wherever, somewhere in the States. Yeah. Fly back, sip red eyes Sunday nights. But I appreciate the experience, and great to have on your resume.
Yeah. The one thing about the CBS Orchestra is there's all kinds of musical guests. Can you remember a certain guest that you thought, oh man?
Jerry Garcia, man.
Oh, wow.
And we met on the steps. I was coming from the dressing room, and during sound check, a rehearsal, he hugged me and kissed me on the cheek. We hugged each other. And I didn't know that he would know who I was. He knew, of course I knew who he was. And then he signed one of my melodica cases.
Wow.
So, and who else? Rod Stewart. What's his name? The country vocalist, dressed in black all the time.
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man, it was great to meet him.
A lot of people have sampled music that you wrote. Can you think of a favorite time that someone sampled something that you wrote that you thought, wow, that was especially well done?
Can't think of the name of it, but one of the things that Dr. Dre and Snoop
Oh, yeah.
the one with the One Nation sample. And of course, people that sampled Flashlight don't remember who did. But that was a compliment. Only thing about that, monetary payment. I'm owed a lot of money. But putting that aside is a compliment.
Yeah.
keeps the music going too.
You played a lot of music with a lot of people. You played in your own, the Bernie Worrell Orchestra. You played with Parliament-Funkadelic, now with Steve Kimock. When someone hears your music, whether they're listening to a record or they're at a concert, what do you want the listener to get out of the experience of listening?
Whatever he hears that'll make him happy, make him feel satisfied and happy. People need to, all the trials and stuff going on in the world, people need to relax, be happy, at least for a couple of hours,
Yeah.
Forget their cares.
Well, the guy you're playing with tonight, I got to interview for the radio a couple nights ago, Steve Kimock. What do you think about playing with him?
Playing with Steve, I've said a lot of times, very inspiring. I get inspired when I play with Steve Kimock. There's complete freedom there to improvise and stretch out. There's form of all the beautiful songs he's written, and his playing is just phenomenal. And the other thing that attracted me, and still does, and one of the main points is that he plays everything, all types of music, which is kind of like what I do.
Yeah.
So it was a great marriage.
What are you most proud of?
Well, I'm proud to be a part of different groups where I could help somebody, where I helped the person's attitude, or a lot of people come up to me and say, "You saved my life," from when they were younger in age, and that I helped. That's what I'm proud of.
What is the best thing about being Bernie Worrell?
I don't know, man. To be able to use the gift God gave him, again, to help people. And it's like that commercial, and I helped.
My last question. We have listeners all over the place. It's open-ended. What do you want to say to all the folks listening in? What do you want to say? What do you want to say to all the folks listening in? Anything.
Try to make the world a better place for everyone, all nations, all genres. Try to bring peace to the world, and do unto others as you would have them do to you. Did I say that right?
Yeah, the golden rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably the best rule.
Think about the children. That's the children, the kids.
Yeah. Well, it's been a great pleasure to do this interview. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Just my right hand is.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.